Welcome to Šalčininkai, a region close to Vilnius, where the majority of the people speak Polish. You will find Šalčininkai district in the southeast of Lithuania, including the little protruding salient that is mostly surrounded by Belarus. Šalčininkai district is just half an hour drive away from the capital Vilnius, and the population here is a little bit under 30,000. Around 75% of the people here are ethnically Polish, which is actually the largest minority in all the municipalities in Lithuania. Šalčininkai is quite a large district, with almost half of it being farmland and nearly the same amount of forest. The regional center is Šalčininkai town, where many signs are also written in Polish language. While most Šalčininkai is quite newly built, there is one interesting heritage building, the Manor of Wagneriai. Built in the 19th century in neoclassical style, today it houses an art school and many cultural events and concerts take place inside. However, most of the interesting places to visit, including manor houses, are situated in other parts of the district. When considering the natural sites of Šalčininkai, the most famous place to visit is Dieveniškės Historical Regional Park, situated in the salient land, which Lithuanians often call the Lithuania's appendix. However, it is best to bring a passport when going there, as there might be some random checks by the border guards. At one point, the gap of Lithuanian land is just 2.5 kilometers wide in between Belarusian land. Dieveniškės Historical Regional Park has some interesting historical and natural places which are worth a trip. It's best to start from the park's visitor center in Poškonis village. Inside, there is an interesting exhibition about the area's history and locations to visit. Poškonis itself is part of the heritage, just as many other small villages in the area, for its old one-street village structure. The old wooden houses are built by the road, with the yards and farming fields narrowly stretching from behind. This was a typical village structure in the 18th century. Many of the current houses in Poškonis, Rimašiai and Jašiunai villages were built in the 19th century. Also, there are a few walking routes that start from the visitor center if you would like to visit some of the natural sites by foot. The whole area is actually very peaceful and quiet, as it is not very populated and not much traffic passes through this land. The routes take you to Grybiškės oak tree, ancient burial mounds, fields with long rows of stones, and the Rimašiai village. Let's go back on the road to further explore the regional park. On the way to our next destination, Norviliškės, there is an impressive-looking Bechonis hill fort, which is nice to have a walk to and take in the landscape. From here, let's go to one of the most remote locations of the regional park, Norviliškės Castle, or, to be precise, the monastery. It stands just a few meters from the border to Belarus, yet it has been here for much longer than that border. Norviliškės was built in the 16th century as a residential castle, which, after a century, was donated to Franciscan monks. So it became a monastery until the occupants from the Russian Empire closed it in the 19th century. From then on, Norviliškės was used for many purposes until it was completely abandoned after the First World War. Luckily, the castle was renovated this century, and now it's an interesting place to explore in a strangely quiet, remote location. For nature lovers, there is also an educational nature trail to explore in Dieveniškės Historical Regional Park. Gauja River Trail is quite short at 1.7 kilometers, but it is enough to get a glimpse of the local nature. There also are some tables for picnics. It's time to go back to the mainland of Lithuania, in which Šalčininkai has more mysteries to solve. One such place is the ruins of Paulava Republic. It may not be much left here today, only the barely standing walls of a long-gone beautiful manor with a hardly believable history behind it. Merkinė Manor was built in the second half of the 18th century by an ambitious young priest Pavel Ksavery Bžostovsky. And that's when the things started to change. In 1769, Bžostovsky established a republic in the lands that he owned, released the peasants from feudal serfdom, and gave them the lands for which they paid taxes. He also created a constitution, established a parliament, and even local currency. These changes quickly increased the income for everyone involved, as the peasants were free to trade their produce. This 30 square kilometer sized Paulava Republic microstate, sort of a Monaco of Lithuania back then, was recognized by the government of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. However, such an ambitious project didn't last long. It ceased to exist in 1795 due to the third partition of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, in which the Lithuanian lands were completely occupied by the Russian Empire in the east and Prussia in the west. From then on, Merkinė Manor was converted back to the old serfdom system. During the Second World War, the manor burned in a fire and was never restored, thus leaving us with the bare, broken walls of a republic long lost. Jašiunai Manor, however, tells a very different story. Less than 15 kilometers along the river Merkys from Merkinė Manor, Jašiunai is known as the cultural hub of the district. Balinsky family moved here in the early 19th century and built a small but beautiful neoclassical style manor with a park. The owners were intellectuals who had family ties with the professors at Vilnius University, which immediately converted their home into a cultural center just 30 kilometers away from Vilnius. Jašiunai Manor continued to flourish until the Second World War, when the occupying Soviet Union took over. The house was used for various purposes throughout the decades, but fortunately now it is renovated again to be what it was meant to be all this time, the house of light and culture. Inside there is a small museum, and the manor house hosts concerts, various cultural events and other activities. There also is a yearly classical music festival held during the summer months. There are a few other places to see by the river Merkys, such as Turgelį village with a lovely 19th century church and a completely round stone chapel. Another spot by the river is Dieveniškės Manor, a renovated 19th century wooden manor, which is currently a local youth center. But what is really nice about this place is the park surrounding it. There are many picnic tables and fireplaces along the riverbank. I visited this place last summer during a kayaking trip, and it was great for a barbecue. Speaking of kayaking, this whole area from Turgelį village, Paulava Republic, Vilkiškiai to Jašiunai is connected by the river Merkys, and all of this can be visited by kayaking through the river as well. Later on, the river Merkys flows into Varėna district, which is extremely popular for kayaking trips as well. Overall, I think that Šalčininkai is quite an interesting yet underrated place. It is so close to Vilnius that it is very easy to go for a short day trip to see what it has to offer. It may not have such picturesque landscapes as Trakai district, which is full of gorgeous lakes and hills, but it does provide a slightly different view of the way of life and history of Lithuania. See you in Šalčininkai, and thanks for watching!